Welcome to our Master Series of Friday Nights video. This is the 19th video in our Master Series and the 6th video in our editing phase. Tonight we wanted to address phase. Now, you may run into this later, so we might as well address it. If you run into phase problems later on, you've got a snare and a drum or something like that, or you've got a microphone, you've put one microphone here and another microphone up here for room ambience or whatever, that between those two tracks, if you start having phase issues, it's almost always because they're not aligned like you see these aligned here. One of them will be farther back or farther forward the other one, and it starts causing what is referred to as phase issues. Now, between those two tracks, you can flip the polarity or the phase on one of the tracks and see if that fixes the problem. Or, you can just flat out align them. Meaning if you've got this track down here and you've got a phase issue because it's not lined up, that you basically, some way, you need to move that piece of audio until it lines up with the other track and so along the timeline to cure that phase issue. It's a very simple thing, and normally it always has to do just with delay. One is delayed from the other one, and it's causing an audio phase issue that you have to get those tracks aligned. So it's a real simple concept for you to deal with. Now, if you're dealing with it on one track, and it's a mono track, it's not very likely you got a phase issue. But if you have a stereo track, there's a couple things you can do. The first thing you can do is you can try something like a mix tool here that I have in my DAW and invert the phase on one of the channels. The right or left side, invert it and see if that will fix the problem. If that doesn't fix the problem, something like this Neutron Mix Tap here, you can actually, if one side or the other is delayed from the other, you can add delay to the other side to drop it back in time so it lines up with the other one to cure the phase problem. That's a very simple cure. Other than that, a very simple cure is something like this, to where I've got this audio file. This file here that we're looking at is this file right here. So I'd put it in my browser and split it to two mono files. You might be able to do this in your DAW or get a separate piece of software that'll split a stereo track into two mono files. That way you've got a right and a left file of this stereo track. And then you'd have to go through this process of lining up those two pieces of audio like you see they're lined up here to cure the phase problem. And that normally it's that simple. So whenever you're dealing with a phase issue between it's on a stereo track or if it's on two separate tracks, it's normally a very simple solution of lining them up. Sometimes you got to fuss with it. Sometimes you'll be fussing around with it and you go, well, right there, it's still phasing a little bit. Right there, it sounds really good. And you got to really listen carefully to listen if you got phase issues. And I really recommend you putting on some different audio tracks, some vocals or something, and putting delay on one track or the other to start hearing what happens with phase. Sometimes 0.01 amount of delay will cause a phase issue between two different instances. Sometimes it won't cause no kind of phase issue. You won't hear nothing. And it's an auditory thing that not always a visual thing. Sometimes it might be okay. Sometimes this might not be. But you'll have to make a determination of that. But that normally takes care of the problem because phase is normally a really simple problem of that one piece of audio is delayed from the other. So the problem is very simple right here. You can see this piece of audio is coming and the sound is hitting before this piece of audio, and it's causing an auditory artifact to where it's causing an auditory phase issue that you sometimes perceive as and things like that, and it's very simple to cure. So peace, hope, love. I hope that you will experiment around with that a little bit, splitting some stereo files, putting one back, putting some delay on one file, and hearing what that's doing so you'll be able to hear it and visualize it much better as you're dealing with phase issues in your production. Peace, hope, love. I'll see you in the next video when we start dealing with clicks, plops, and bleeps.